We're going to start with pretty much exactly the same main. So I'm going to copy this entire thing. I'm going to copy this, comment it out. I'm going to create a new main called http4s main.scala. I'm going to paste this whole thing in here. Okay, and we're going to remove. Okay, so we're going to leave the stream. And okay, hold on. Let me start from the top. So we're not gonna do the path anymore, and we just need the cats effect like this, and we just need fs2 stream. Okay, so for now this is all we need. Okay, and now over here we basically are going to construct a client stream. This is going to be a client stream, and for now it's just going to be a stream of IO and strings. Okay, so for now it's just going to be a stream of hello world. Okay, so now this whole thing should still work. What happened here? How did you get here? There we go. Okay, so this is our hello world. This is pretty much, HTTP4s is built on fs2 a little bit, right? Because the body of an HTTP request and response actually is a stream these days, since this is getting too detailed. Okay, so basically, once we're going to finish with our client, it's going to be a stream that would send requests and get responses. Okay, and we're just going to drain the entire stream of the responses. In fact, the client is going to be the last piece that we're going to introduce. In fact, we're going to do one tiny thing, because once we're finished, the client is going to be an effectful stream. So we're going to do eval over here, and we're going to do IO pure hello world over here. Okay, so it's going to do exactly the same thing over here, but it's going to be this way. It's going to be better prepared for what's coming. All right, and again, like before we start with this thing, again, a reminder: this is going to be way too fast, so please don't try to understand every little detail. I'll try to explain as much as possible, but HTTP4s is a very functional library, but if you're familiar with functional programming, it's very, very simple actually. But if not, then it's actually kind of crazy. Okay, so in the end of this example, this is going to be a typical ping pong example, right? We're going to send a username and like Alice, and we're going to get back a JSON which is going to say hello Alice. So in this main, we're going to have both the server and the client. So what we're going to do is, once we're going to have the server, we're going to start the server, and we're going to start it by obtaining a fiber, right? So we're going to get a fiber. We're going to do server.start. So right now we don't have the server, so I'm going to comment it out. Okay, then we're going to send the request, and then we're going to cancel the fiber. Now, ideally, in a proper server scenario, you wouldn't cancel your fiber. You would just let it run. But this is just an example, so for now it's going to be fine. Okay, and a fiber is just a lightweight thread. If you've never heard about fibers, don't worry. Okay, essentially think about it as a thread, right? You just start it, you cancel it, or you join it with the other threads and whatever. Okay, so this is all that we need for now. Okay, so let's go and start with creating our HTTP routes. Okay, so we're actually going to go create a file. I'm going to call it greeting route.scala. Like technically this is like greeting. Let's call it greeting server route. Right? Because usually you would have like your server in one application and your client in the other application, and you could afford to call the things the same. I'm going to do server route, and then we're going to have client route. Okay, did I do .scala? I did. All right, great. So this is going to be like this, and this is going to be like that. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is actually not going to have to do anything with HTTP4s. It's still going to be at the level of circe. Okay, so we're going to do import IO circe, and not OI. Okay, IO circe, and import IO circe generic semi-auto. Semi-auto. Okay, like this. Okay, so we're going to have a greeting server route. This is going to be the companion object for our actual routes. Okay, so this is the one that is going to just define our HTTP bodies, right? So basically our JSON. Okay, so we're going to have a final class, final case class request. Okay, this is going to be a username of string, right? So we're going to send Alice or Bob or whatever, and we're going to get a final case class response, which is going to be some greeting string, right? So just going to take the username, construct a string, hello Alice or whatever. Okay, so in the companion object for request, object request, we're going to do the typical dance. We're going to do implicit val decoder, which is going to be a decoder for request, which is going to be derive decoder like this. And let's do the same thing for the encoder, and over here let me do encoder, encoder, and over here as well, encoder. Okay, and let's do the same encoder, decoder. Oh man, derive encoder like this. All right, and it's going to be the same thing for the response. Okay, so just go here, here, here. It's going to be the response. All right. Now, since our bodies are going to be JSON, we need to convert this into, we need to specify the content type, right? So this goes a little bit into HTTP details, right? But if you're actually sending this JSON somewhere, you need to specify that the content type is actually going to be JSON. And the way it's done in http4s is basically that you also define your so-called entity decoders and entity encoders. And what they do is they rely on the decoders and encoders from Circe, and basically all they do is they attach this content type to the to the headers. So let's start to bring in our first http4s dependency. So we're gonna let me duplicate this line, bring it down, have it like this, and let me actually copy this line as well. Okay, so the version is going to be 0.21.1. Okay, so this group is going to be, no, not now. This group is going to be for the http4s dependencies. We're going to have 4 of them in total, and the first one is going to be http4s. It's going to be http4s-circe, like this. Okay, yes, please reload this one. Now it's fine. And now we also need to import the build. Okay, let me switch back to the terminal and let's go to greeting server route. Okay, so now over here, what we can do is we need to bring in a couple of things. So we're going to do import cats effect sync. Again, we're going to continue with this like final tagless approach, and like similar to like these two, we're going to have import org http4s, and we're going to import org http4s circe. Okay, like these two. And now http4s circe. All right, so and now like similar to this like decoder and encoder, we actually can copy them, paste them over here, and I'm gonna call them, in fact it's actually kind of weird, as soon as I change the types, in fact I'm gonna show you this to you later. I think this is a bug in SPT. Okay, so let's say that this is an entity decoder and this is an entity encoder. Okay, and these are going to be the types over here. So this is going to be the entity decoder and this is going to be the entity encoder. Okay, and over here we're going to say JSON off, and over here we're going to say JSON encoder off, right? So these two, they come from this guy. Okay, so we also need to do everything in this context of f. Okay, so if we go over here and try to save the file, it's going to say that it also needs actually a sync. I did something wrong. Hold on. Not how to type entity encoder. Decoder entity encoder. Oh yeah, it also needs this f. I forgot. Okay, like this. Okay, so now the only error that we should see is, okay, this needs to be def. Needs to be def and divergent blah blah blah. See, this is exactly what I meant. Okay. Well, actually, technically, this is not exactly what I meant. So it says diversion implicit expansion. Every time you see this, like 99% of the time, if you see this weird error message, it basically means that you forgot to specify the types. Okay. So over here, if we do f and request, it should be fine now, but now it will actually give us the proper error message, which is could not find an instance of sync for f, right? So we just need to specify that we actually, for this thing, we also need the sync, right? So basically always specify the types. I mean, I know what I'm doing, so I'm not going to do this, but still, like this is one of the most frustrating things for people when they start dealing with libraries like cats or cats effect, and they see this error message and they're like, oh my god, what the hell is this? In general, this is a very big problem with code bases that are heavy on type classes, because basically if you're missing the import, you have no idea which import you need. This might actually improve with Scala 3. The error messages might actually improve. All right, what I wanted to show you is that if I actually call these guys the same as above, it will actually compile. For some stupid reason, it actually compiles. It shouldn't compile, and it actually would cause problems a bit later. So I'm going to rename them back. So please don't do this. Okay, let's do the same thing for the response, which is over here, and the same over here. It's not going to be request. It's going to be response. Okay, so now we have encoders and decoders for both, and we have entity decoders and entity decoders for both. And if we jump in there, it's gonna basically see, as you can see, it just does JSON of with media type, and it just basically sets the content type. Okay, great. So now we actually can continue, and we actually can define the actual route. And for this, we're gonna bring in our next dependency, which is going to be over here. It's going to be DSL. Okay, it's going to be DSL like this. Okay, so hold on, we have C and then we have D like this. All right, yes, please import the change. And let's go back to terminal. Let's go back to http4s main. Sorry, not the main. We're still doing the routes. Okay, so we're gonna have a class over here. I'm gonna have a class. It's gonna be called exactly like this one. Oh, exactly like this one. Okay. And in fact, let's actually start with imports because I don't want to be in the situation where I forgot to bring in the imports. Okay, so we need to bring in the DSL and we need to bring in the syntax. Okay, because we're actually going to be, we're actually going to be encoding JSON. Okay, we only need like these two things. Okay, so now we can go and we can say, and this is going to be a class which is going to work for some f, which is going to need a sync. Okay, and now we can extend the DSL that comes from over here. This is going to be the DSL that will allow us to create the routes for DSL F. Okay, like this. All right. So what I like to do sometimes is I like to do this. So this is going to be a request to hello, and it's going to be a post request. So I'm going to do this. You don't have to do it like this, but yeah. So this is going to be an HTTP routes for F. And it's going to be http routes.of/f. Okay, always specify the types. Okay, and we're just going to pattern match on the request. And if it's a post to root and hello, then we're going to process the request. So we're going to say request.as request, and this is where our decoder comes in. This one, okay, as request. Okay, and we're going to do flat map, and we have our request. Okay, and over here we're going to produce the OK response. Okay, and it's going to be a response of some stuff, and at the end we're going to say as.json. Okay, so it's going to be a response with a simple string interpolation. We're going to say hello. Whoops, hello. Request dot user name. Okay, it's just a case class over here. Now, if I save the file, it's probably not going to compile because of, well, actually, it doesn't compile because of many things, but I believe that it actually compiles. It doesn't compile because in http4s there is also a thing called request, and there is also a thing called response. So what I usually do is I take this class. So I could just let me actually try this. So I'm going to do this so that I'm sure that this is actually what's going wrong. And no, actually some other things are going wrong as well. Not found type http http4s DSL. Okay, that's better. What else? It can't find root and stuff. Okay, so there's a typo over here. Hold on, request. Okay. Not found value flat map. Okay, so this is like one of the examples, right? So you just have no idea that you forgot the import to cats implicits. Okay, cats implicits. So we need an instance for the F. All right, and not found value post. Oh, it's actually spelled post like this. So we actually don't need this. Like this is again, like even for me, like you just get lost in all of these imports, and your editor is not always helpful. Now, what I wanted to show you this before is that, if you don't do this, then it's going to look at the request and the response that are defined in org http4s. And what I usually do is I just grab this entire class and I just throw it into this object. Okay, and then it just works fine. In fact, I usually go and I create a factory. I'm just going to say that this is going to be f of sync, and it's going to produce this route for me of f. And it's just going to do a new greeting route of f. Okay, just a helper greeting server route like this. All right. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to go to our main, and we're going to start creating a server for this. So we're going to go and actually even before the server. So http4s has a concept of routes, and routes are basically partial functions. And then at the end, if you want to construct an HTTP app, what they call an HTTP app, then you need to make sure that these routes are sort of like sealed, that they always have some sort of fallback, right? So it needs to become a total function. Okay, so let's go, and we're gonna have over here, we're gonna have HTTP app, which is an HTTP app of IO. Okay, it's going to be a non-empty chain, right? Non-empty chain of, and now we're gonna call my function, right? So we're gonna say greeting server route, and we're gonna call the supply function, right? So we're just gonna say please for IO, and then we're gonna say hello, and then we're gonna say post. Okay, so I'm basically pretending as if we had like many routes, and we're gonna take all of them, and we're gonna do reduce left. We're gonna collapse all of them with this funny looking operator. Collapse all of them, and now we're gonna seal them with this function called or not found. Okay, now we just need a couple of imports. We need to have the org http4s http app, and we need to import org http4s implicits. And by the way, fs2 stream should probably be over here. Okay, CFO. Okay, so we have also cats data, because we're using that empty list, and we probably need cats implicits as well at some point. Right. Cool. So now basically we have our HTTP app. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to put this thing into some server, and you could use JT or whatever you want, but we're actually going to use Blaze, which comes in, which it was HTTP4s. We need to go to our build and enable it. So let's clone this one, and we're going to say that it's going to be the Blaze server over here. And yes, please import the changes. I'm going to go back to our main, and we're going to have one extra import. We're going to say import org http4s.server.blaze server builder, like this. All right, let's save that, and once Blue finishes importing this actually should be fine. Okay, so we have our HTTP app, and now let's go and create a server. So this is going to be our server. Okay, and this is going to be a server of IO of nothing. Okay, like this. Okay, and we should be able to do server start and server cancel on IO of nothing. Okay, so it compiles now. Great. So the way we construct a server is we're basically just saying Blaze server builder. It's the one that the one that we imported over here, and it's going to be the builder for IO. We're just going to say bind HTTP to port 880. Whoops, 880. Okay, and with HTTP app, and we're going to pass it this HTTP app with all of our routes, even though it's just one. And then we're going to say resource, and we're going to say use, and basically never expire. Okay, like this. Okay, so this already works. As you can see, it already started the server. We've seen some logback output, but we're not sending any requests. Okay, we're starting the server. We're printing out hello world basically by draining this effectful string with an IOP of hello world, and then we're canceling the server. So we actually need to go and build the client. And in fact, you know what? Before we build the client, let's actually play around with this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to press enter over here, and I'm going to switch to restart. Okay, so I have Revolver in scope, and Revolver will allow me to kill a server, in such a way that it will that all the resources will be cleaned up properly. Well, not properly. It just basically it forks the JVM. So when I kill it, it will actually just like kill the entire JVM. Okay, so instead of fiber cancel, I'm gonna do fiber join. Okay, and now the server is just gonna hang there. Okay, so it prints out hello world. In fact, we actually don't need the hello world. So as you can see, like it just stopped it by killing the fork JVM over here and just restarted it completely. So in fact, we actually don't even need this. Okay, and this one. Okay, it starts the server and just waits. Okay, it started the server. There's no output. It just hangs there. So what we can do is I can just go and I can do curl, and I'm gonna curl with some data. Okay, and I'm gonna do so this is going to be a JSON. Okay, so this is going to be our username, and this is going to be Alice, and we're going to specify the header, which is going to be content type, and it's going to be application/JSON, and we're going to do -x post. Okay, so curl is if in case you're not familiar, curl is an HTTP client. Okay, and we're going to post this thing to http://localhost 8080 / hello. And if we did everything right, we see our greeting, hello Alice. In fact, let me actually show you a really cool VS Code extension. So it's called REST client over here, and I already have it installed. It's a really, really cool extension. So what it allows you to do is we can go and it doesn't actually matter where. Let's go and create a file over here. Let's call it client, and as long as it has the HTTP or REST extension, or at least the output of the buffer is set, the syntax is set to HTTP, we can actually, and it understands the curl syntax, so I can actually copy this entire thing and copy that, and I can paste it over here. Now, because I have this extension, this button is going to appear, and I press send request, and it's going to show me the response over here, greeting, hello Alice, which is super, super cool. And in fact, it has its own syntax, right? So this is how you split this file into multiple requests. And over here, we're going to do exactly the same thing, but with its own syntax. So we're just going to say post, and as you have seen, you also have auto completion. So we're going to post to our URL, which is going to be this one. Right underneath, we're going to say content type, and we're going to say application JSON, and over here we're going to have an empty line, right? And we're going to send the body, and the body is going to be username Bob, for example. Okay, so now we can do send request. So it's exactly the same thing, but with its own syntax. Okay, now let's go and kill it, and I can kill it by pressing enter and just typing restop. Okay, let's go to http4s main, switch back to cancel. Let's do all of this, and now we actually don't need the revolver. We can go back to running our regular main, because this way it will always clean it up for us. All right, now let's actually implement the client. We're going to create a new file. We're going to call it greeting route. How did I call it? The other one was called hold on. The other one was called greeting server route. Okay, so this one is going to be called greeting client route. Right, so again, usually we have them in different applications. Okay, and because this video is getting so long, I'm just going to paste the imports. So these are the things that we need, and over here we're going to have a similar structure. In fact, maybe I can go to the server route, and I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it over here. In fact, http4s allows you to derive a client from the server. We're not going to do this, but still. Okay, so we don't need like these messages because they're already defined in the server. Okay, so the bodies we don't need, but over here, like, the structure is going to be very, very very similar. Okay, so instead of greeting server route, everywhere we're going to say greeting client route. Okay, or how did I call it? Yeah, client route, right? Server route and client route. Okay, so over here with the messages, it's going to be greeting server route dot request, and over here it's going to be greeting server route dot response. Now, obviously, all of this stuff is going to change, but like the structure is very, very similar. Okay, so we're going to have an app apply over here. In this case, we actually need a parameter. We're going to pass in a so-called client f. You're going to see where it comes from once we actually use this route in our main. Okay, so we're just going to have it over here. This is going to be the client, and let me actually copy this guy, client, and have it over here. Okay, so it still uses the http4s DSL, but it's now going to be the client DSL, which comes from this import. Okay, so it's client. Okay, so over here it's going to be the similar structure. So it's going to be object hello, and it's going to be def post. And again, you don't need to do it like this, but you can. So we're going to pass in a username over here, which is going to be a string, and what this thing produces is going to be just f of response. Okay, so it just produces an f of what's it called? It's over here, that thing, f of response. Okay, so now let me throw actually everything out over here, and let's just have an equal sign. Okay, right, so this client, it comes from http4s, and it has a method called expect. Right, so basically saying expect greeting route dot response. You're actually kind of writing this in reverse. Okay, you're saying what do you expect from the request? So you can say request equals post, and this time I'm going to spell it like this, post, and we're going to say the body is going to be the greeting. By the way, it's greeting server route. So it's going to be greeting server route dot request of username, which comes from over here. And we're going to do as JSON, which comes from circe. And then we need to do URI, and it has a string interpolation for URIs over here. Man, I hate this auto completion of quotes. All right, so we're going to do HTTP. Actually, let me copy this. This one. Okay, so it's going to be like this. All right, hello. Great. As always, when doing something wrong was the imports. Oh yeah, we actually forgot to include the client into our build. Forgot that. Okay, so it's going to be Blaze server and Blaze client. Client like this. Yes, imported changes. All right, where's it? Client route. So once it finishes compiling, it's going to be fine. And in fact, because I don't like the way this reads, so it reads like in sort of in reverse. What I usually like to do is I like to use the pipe, right? So basically, I'm going to do the post over here. I'm going to do the post, and then over here, I'm just going to say pipe this into client expect this thing. Okay, like this, and I believe that it reads much nicer like this, right? So we're sending a post request and we're piping it into client expect. Okay, so this is the entire client. Very, very simple, right? So it's basically built around expect and around the http4s client DSL. All right, so let's go back into our HTTP app. HTTP4s main, and now what we're going to do, and in fact I'm going to remind you, so remember in read JSON from, the way we were doing was we were working with fs2. We were saying stream.resource and then blocker and then flap map blocker. In fact, I'm going to copy this line and I'm going to go back over here. Let me create a scope over here like this. Okay, so I'm gonna paste this in, and the shape of this is going to look, much it's going to look very, very close. Okay, so instead of stream.resource, we're actually going to say Blaze client builder, which we actually need to import over here. So it's going to come from client, and it's going to be Blaze client builder. Okay, so now we're over here in builder, and it's going to be a builder of IO, and it needs the execution context. Right? We're not going to run the server and the client on the same thread pool. Okay, so in fact we're going to do import Scala.concurrent execution context dot global like this. Okay, so that we can pass it in over here. And now we're going to say dot stream, and now we're going to do flat map. It's going to be the same flat map, and this is exactly where the client comes from, right? So now we have this client, and we can actually go and pass it into our class over here, client, so that we can expect a response. All right. So for now, we're actually still doing just hello world. We're starting server. We're doing hello world. We're actually not sending this this request. Okay. We're not actually using the client. Okay. So let me have a tiny helper over here. We're going to say this is going to be the post for the username string. It's going to be produce an IO of greeting server route dot response. Okay, and similar to the code that well, actually not similar. Well, the one that we don't see anymore. Okay, so it's going to be greeting route client of IO. We're going to pass it in the client that comes from here, right? And we're going to say hello dot post, and it wants a username, if you remember, right? So let's do something like Alice. Oh, actually we have username over here. I forgot. Okay, username. Great. Okay, now not found value greeting route client. How did I call it? Greeting client route. Okay, greeting client route like this. Okay, so we're still not using post, but if you wanted to use post, all we need to do is actually, well, to just go and use it. So instead of IO pure over here, we're just going to post, and we're going to post Alice like this, right? So as you can see, it's very, very similar to what we were doing before. Okay, now the return type just changed. Okay, so it's not going to be a string, it's going to be a response. Okay, so this whole thing is what is returned by this client, and this should be it. So if we're sending Alice, we're getting back hello Alice. If we're sending Bob, we should get hello Bob. Okay, in fact, let's actually play around with this. So we can do instead of this, we can do stream.eval seek, right? And we can just use a list of alpha, bravo, and Charlie and Delta. And what we're going to do is we're going to traverse post. And if you're not super familiar with functional programming like this, traverse is just a map. However, if you map, then the types are going to be flipped. So you can have lists of IO, but we actually need an IO of list. It would know that it's IO of list if we were specifying more types. And after that, we would do sequence. It's similar to like future.sequence. And traverse is just a shortcut for map and sequence, right? So it's just traverse like this. Okay, and I believe over here where we're sending, where we're doing the client, we could actually also do something like take two. Okay, and it should send only 2 requests. Okay, it doesn't. I did something wrong. In fact, I think I know what I did wrong. So if you put take two, if I'm right, then we should see it over here. Yeah. Okay, so we need to map it to. Is it gonna work to? Yeah, let's try this one. To IO of. Whatever comes in. No, hold on. Let's say the response comes in over here, and we do IO print line of response. I haven't played a lot with fs2 actually. Yeah, is there a map? Map to eval. Is there a map? Is there like eval map or something? Eval map. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's gonna. Yeah. So this is the one that I wanted. No, yeah, take two, and over here, take two. Yeah. So this is the correct way. So what I did before was just map. It was side effecting. Yeah. So this is the correct way of how to do this. Okay. But let's actually remove take two. And by the way, I'm totally loving this pipe operator. Okay. So let's just grab this list, traverse it into post. Okay, and then pipe it into stream.eval seek. Like this. Okay, it looks much nicer. All right, now I didn't want to make this video too much focused on fs2 or http4s, but I couldn't resist like showing you a full complete example. In fact, this video got so long that I'm probably gonna split it up into two. And so the next thing that I'm actually going to show you, yes, this is not it. I'm actually going to show you a Scala.js example where we're going to use circe and we're going to send a request to our server over here. So, by the way we structured this entire http4s application is not, it's not complete. It's not perfect. Okay, but yeah, it's enough for us. One day we're going to take it for a proper spin and then do everything properly. Okay. Now, before we're going to do this, in Scala.js, I had a problem sending the request from Node.js. So we're actually going to need to switch this. We're going to create like a teeny tiny index HTML, which is going to load our Scala.js JavaScript, and it's going to send a request from the browser. And because we're sending the request from the browser, browsers have this built-in mechanism to prevent cross-origin requests. So we need to enable the cross-origin resource sharing for our example. And with HTTP4s, it's super trivial because it's built on functional programming. Because every route is just a function. We just need to wrap this function into another function, right? So all we need to do is for this particular route, we just need to do course over here, like this, and that's pretty much it. We just need to import it, and that's all, right? So we're just going to import this, and yeah, so this way we actually enabled all the cross-origin resource sharing requests. You should not do this in production like this. I mean, just like this, right? So this function has overloads which allow you to specify exactly which clients are allowed to query for this resource. But for our case, it's actually enough. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this thing again. I'm going to switch to restart. Okay, and I'm gonna comment out, well, pretty much everything over here. So we're just gonna start the server and then we're gonna join. Okay, so this thing is just now gonna sit here and wait for us to send a request from something like Scala.js, and this thing should still work now, right? So we're sending hello Bob, and we're sending hello Alice. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to switch to another workspace. I'm going to go into my console. I'm going to switch to the dev folder, and I'm going to do spt new dev inside. So this is going to be a completely new project. It's going to be the Scala.js project. So we're going to call it JS Playground. Come on, JS Playground io.dev inside you. And we're just going to do dev inside you. All right, let's open it with Visual Studio Code. All right, let's go to the build. let's not do these two guys. Whoa, hold on, just these two guys. Okay, like this. No, don't show again. All right, so we need to convert this thing into a Scala.js JS thing. Okay, so let's go into plugins where we're using these couple of plugins. Let's go and use the Scala.js plugin. And because everything is getting so long, I'm just going to go and paste it. All right, Scala.js 101, finally the version 1 came out. So now we can go back to our build. And over here, we're just going to say that we're going to enable the plugin. Enable plugins, and it's going to be Scala.js plugin like this. And also we need to make sure that we run a main. So let's go over here, Scala.js use main module initializer like this. It is going to be true. We're going to need a couple of dependencies. So in fact, let me copy paste them. Right. So we're going to use JS DOM, and we're also going to use get's core, right? Because we're still using circe. Okay, we're still using circe. In fact, it's exactly the same stuff as we're doing in the other project. Okay, so we're using the same circe stuff, we're using the same get's core stuff. They're they're compiled to Scala.js as well. And we're also going to use Scala.js DOM so that we can do like Ajax get request and stuff. Okay, so this is actually enough for everything that we want to do. Let's import the build. Let's also go into the terminal. And in fact, I should probably wait a little bit, because sometimes when I'm starting SBT and I'm importing the build for Bloop, sometimes they collide with each other a little bit. So let me wait a couple of seconds. All right, it seems like it finished. Let me also go into SBT, and at this point we can also go back to our main and start hacking away. Okay, so let's import Scala util chaining. Let's import IO circe. Let's import io.circe generic auto. Let me actually switch back to running over here. Okay, so this is a Scala.js project now, right? So io circe parser and io circe syntax like this. Okay, and we're going to have the typical example, the same as we're always having. So we're going to have final case class person was name string and age int. We're going to create a person. It's going to be a person. It's going to be a person of Alice and 27 like this. And we're going to do, this is the same thing as we did in our, so let me go package. Remember our round trip like this? So let me just do that. Let me just do that and bring that in. So this is going to be person dot. Okay, so we're gonna do as JSON. Let me actually write this thing from scratch. I think we're gonna change way too many things. Okay, so I'm gonna do person dot as JSON. I'm gonna say spaces 2. I'm gonna tap this into a print line. We're gonna tap this into print line. This times 100. Okay, this is actually not my hyphen. I want my hyphen. Hold on. Copy. Paste all of these hyphens. Okay, it's not tau, it's tap. Tap. Okay, and now we're going to pipe this back into decode person, and we're going to tap print line. Okay, so it's exactly the same as we're doing in the regular Scala project, but now we're actually doing Scala.js, and it works exactly the same as before. Okay, so now we can actually go back and do our request response thing. So we're going to have final case class request, which is going to be username string. We're going to have a final case class response, which is going to be greeting for string. All right, now we're going to need to import a couple of things. I'm going to do them over here, Scala.js dom.ext.ajax. Okay, now we're going to do import scala.concurrent execution context dot implicits global. Okay, and now we can do over here ajax dot post, and we're going to have URL equals, let me actually copy it, client, it's this one. Okay, this is going to be the URL. Okay, whoa. Okay, so we're not doing http4s, so we need to put our headers ourselves. So we're going to do headers, and we're going to do map over here. In fact, let me actually copy this from our client as well. Okay, so we just need to copy this, bring it in over here. So this is going to be the key, and this is going to be the value, like this, and because it's a map, this is going to be a tuple. Okay, and now our data is going to be the request of Alice. Let's actually use Bob as JSON, no spaces, right? So this is the circe part. Okay, and so this is going to return a future, so we're going to do it for each. We're going to do response text, and we're going to pipe that into decode response, and we're going to also tap it into, hold up, I'm going to tap this into print line like this. And what should happen right now is, come over here, is that it's going to fail for Node.js. In fact, like I even installed a dependency for Node.js that would send this request, but it somehow doesn't. Okay, so no worries. So we're going to do this through the browser. Okay, so at this point we can switch to fast.js, and we're going to go into source main, new file, resource/index.html. I'm going to type in HTML colon 5 tab, and we're going to have this thing. Okay, and over here all we need to do is we need to say that we want a script, and it's going to be a type is going to be text Java script, and the source for the script is going to be, we need to go one layer above. So what's going to happen is, as always, right, so this resource index HTML is going to be copied into classes over here, right? It's going to sit there. So we need to go one level above and access this JavaScript thing. Okay, so it's going to be JS playground fast.js. All right, so this is all that we need to do. In fact, once I'm going to compile this, we should see that it's copied over there. Where is it? It should actually be there. Hold on. Classes. Why don't I see it? Source main resources. It is in the not resource, resources. There we go. Okay, let's refresh. Classes. There we go. Index HTML. Okay, so now we can take this index HTML and we can open it with an extension that I have called live server. Okay, so it's going to open probably Chrome. I think Chrome is my default. Yeah. All right, so it opened that, and let's go over here, put it over here. All right, so if we now go and look into our console, we see our right response, this hello Bob. Okay, hold on. Well, let me go to our main. Let me save the file again real quick. All right, there we go. Actually, why are we still doing our hyphens? We don't need them. We don't need them. Okay, so now it's going to flash a couple of times because live reload actually reloads every time something in the directory changes, but a bunch of things are changing. In fact, let me zoom in. Okay, so we're going to have hello Bob. Let's do Alice, and we should see hello Alice once it finishes compiling, and there we go. Hello Alice. So as you can see, circe works, the same in Scala.js as it works in Scala. However, because you're in the JavaScript world, there will always be dragons. In fact, let me show you an example. I'm going to copy paste it so not to waste your time. So this is an example with dates, and hold on. What's up? What's up with that? What's up? Unapplied missing argument list for method. What am I doing? Tap print line as JSON spaces 2 print line decode date tap print line 2 errors found. Oh, okay. That's found type date. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me import this one. Date like this. All right. Okay, so now it compiles, and at least in the preparation for my video, it was doing something weird. So first of all, over here, this guy, it's empty, right? So all of a sudden, it's empty. I assume that date is not even a case class. So if I jump in there, it's it's some weird Scala.js stuff. Okay, so I assume that it would just like fail to compile. However, it tries to do something, and if I'm going back, right, I'm going back from empty, it actually defaults to the current time. Okay, so over here I constructed a date and a time, that was like today, but the time was different. So it just defaults to the local time. Right now it's 12:42, which displays this. So yeah, all I'm trying to tell you is that, if you're in the JavaScript world, even though you're using Scala.js, even though, the Scala.js 1 was finally released, there will always be Dragon, so always write your tests. All right. And yeah, that's all I got for today. I know it was a little bit too much. I know it was a little bit too crazy. I probably splitted these two videos into two because otherwise it would be like almost 2 hours long. And yeah, I hope you like these videos. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. As always, it's Vlad, devinside.com. Don't forget to like this video if you did, subscribe if you want to improve the developer inside you. And if you learned something today, consider support me on Patreon and thus watch my videos before everyone else. And most importantly, take care.